Hello there and welcome to the Media Coach video tip. I'm continuing the theme of giving you a book to read, a speech to have a look at and consider, and a little tip that you can use to improve your own speaking. So those three things again this week. Firstly, the book, and it's this one. It's called White House Ghosts by Robert Schlesinger. It's quite a chunky book. It's quite hard to get hold of originally. I think it's a little bit easier than when I originally got it about 10 years ago. And as the name suggests, it's about White House speechwriters, the presidential speechwriters, the people who produce the words that the presidents deliver. Because surprise, surprise, presidents don't write their own speeches. They have a hand in it quite often, but they have a team of speechwriters, usually headed by a chief speechwriter who does their speeches. For example, Ronald Reagan had a woman called Peggy Noonan, absolutely brilliant wordsmith who crafted her speeches. John F. Kennedy worked with somebody called Ted Sorensen, who I'll be coming back to in a moment, to produce his brilliant rhetoric, something else I'll be coming back to in a moment. The thing about that book is that it shows you the craft of speech writing. It talks about how speeches came together, where references came from, how different drafts were used, and it's a brilliant way of looking at speech creation. So, White House Ghosts by Robert Schlesinger. The speech I want you to have a look at this week, and the link will be down below, is John F. Kennedy's inauguration speech back in January 1961. It's a superb speech, a wonderful piece of rhetoric, crafted mainly by Ted Sorensen, who was his chief speechwriter and who is mentioned. In fact, it's called The Age of Sorensen, one of the chapters in that book. It's an absolutely superb speech delivered on a freezing cold day, and Kennedy in his normal suit and waistcoat, lots of thermal underwear on underneath because it made him look kind of strong and macho, whereas all the other people are sort of wrapped up in mufflers and overcoats and hats and so on. That was part of his image. But it's the words that are important. The words were absolutely superb on that day, and he delivered that wonderful phrase, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." And then he went on to follow that up with something that's often not quoted. And he talked to people around the world. He said to global citizens, ask not what America can do for you, but ask what we can all do together to make the world a better place. So he didn't quite do the reversal. Anyway, it's a fantastic speech. The link will be below. Take a look at that. It's about 16 minutes and it'll be a wonderful use of your time. And the third thing is a tip for you. And I'm going to relate this back to that phrase. Ask not what you can do for your country. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. It's a rhetorical device. I talk about rhetoric quite a lot, and I want to introduce a term called chiasmus. Chiasmus. Chiasmus is a rhetorical device which is a mirror image, where the image is reverse. So ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Now, if I'm being absolutely precise about rhetoric, it's not quite a perfect example of chiasmus. It's an example of antimetabole, which I'll come back to at another time. If you want a better example, then just behind my ear here, the guy in the middle of that photo is Steve Stills, who played with Crosby, Stills and Nash, great solo artist as well. And on his first solo album, he did a song called Love the One You're With. And the words go, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. That is a perfect example of chiasmus. So thumbs up to Steve Stills there, kept in many hands. Absolutely brilliant use of chiasmus. So there are the three things. The book, White House Ghosts by Robert Schlesinger. The speech, John F. Kennedy's inaugural speech in January 1961. And chiasmus, which I want you to try out. Try and find an example of your own where you can flip, you can create the mirror image or a phrase in your speech to make it even more powerful. I wish you the very best of luck.